No,
All
we're not
right, it's
skipping it.
barely news. This is where we go over stories that are typically quick to talk about that are so forgetful that Bardwell doesn't even talk about them. But today we're
Oh, it's gonna be
gonna
such a good week. I was so
today we're gonna
on.
start with the toilet drone, which is pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Is this real? Shut up. This isn't real. This is a
I think this
render.
is I think this is a render slash concept. But yeah, this is I thought this was pretty funny. Toss that in there into the show.
Just fly you a toilet. Okay.
You just hit the button on the app and you get a toilet.
Okay. Uh, oh man, remember that crazy guy who built a Green Goblin style hoverboard and then like several times almost like injured himself when it freaked out and tried to kill him? Well, now you can do it too. He'll make one for you.
Yes, somebody sent me this, and I did not realize this had actually gone up and said they were going to deliver in June, and it is June. So, in theory, we'll be getting these. A couple people have ordered these.
How much
not
are they?
that many.
Do we
Let's
know?
see. I just want to make sure we get the correct.
That's why it's barely news because we don't do any research into these.
You got it.
I wonder if I could fly like that. Yeah, show me
The total fee is $25,000.
It's not unreasonable.
Or you can get a build kit for 10 grand.
But does it include the flight controller software? I guess is the key.
Oh,
I mean, the actual hardware.
I'm sorry, hold on. This pledge is $10,000 toward a $54,000 total cost.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Oh.
And then they say discounted from $89,000 MSRP. Can't you buy one of those that you put together for $89,000? I mean, like a helicopter? I don't know.
I feel like that's not worth $90,000.
I agree.
No offense, but like I know it's a flaw to look at the hardware of something like this and say, well, it's only $15,000 in hardware or whatever it is, and like obviously the development time and yada yada yada. But 90 grand for this that's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Good thing is it's manned, so you don't need a license like you do for any other drone.
Yeah, the FAA's perspective is if you're willing to kill yourself in experimental aircraft, feel free, but don't fly a drone.
Don't expect to not get ticketed or in trouble if you're doing this down a city street like he was, because I believe all of his, after looking back at it, I believe all of his stuff was like marked out, and they like had planned the flights with city officials and stuff. So it looked all sketchy, but it wasn't necessarily as sketchy as it was.
I mean, they didn't show any of the footage like that one time when he tried to shoot a basketball and got the basketball hit him.
Oh,
and the whole thing just went boom, 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 and then dumped him.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't show that.
Did not show that.
Well, there you go. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm going to say don't sign up for that Kickstarter. That's my suggestion.
Not for $90,000. For $10K, I was thinking about it.
All right. Next up, Airmap is shut down. People might know Airmap as a Lance provider for drones. Has not been super popular anytime recently, and maybe that's part of why they've shut down their Lance services. But it does appear they are instead going to try to be a UTM/AAM essentially. So from what they're talking about, they're instead going to handle tracking, autonomy, and beyond visual line of sight flights at scale. So it sounds to me like they're transitioning into doing some kind of AAM or UTM, which is like traffic management through an app. So
right now, Airmap is what I use when I want to check like the ceiling in my area, if I'm in a no-fly zone, and if I need to get Lance approval, I use Airmap. What should I use next? What's the replacement? Do we know? I realize that would be an actual news segment, not It's Barely News, but...
Well, as far as I know, what most people are using, let me make sure I have the correct current name. Is it Air Control, right? I believe is the current one, which is a Loft's new version. Yeah. Okay. Like a Loft bought Air Control, I think, and became that. But yeah, Air Control is the one I use.
All right. Wait. Is Air Control also the one I use? Maybe it is.
My understanding
maybe
is most people are not using Airmap.
quad stuff. QR. No, it's not even in that. Air control. Oh, yeah, I do use air control. Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
Well,
think
that's what you
anybody
should
will
use, too.
really be affected by this. It's just kind of an update. And Watson, it's barely news.
Yeah. All right.
We
This
got
is
a
a good
double
one.
story. We
This is a
got a
good one.
double story. So, the drone in testing, a drone AI was claimed to have killed its human operator because the human operator decided to prevent it. Basically, it didn't follow its direction. So the drone's job was to identify SAM sites and give them to a human operator, and the human operator would say, yes, blow that SAM site up. And the human said no enough times that it instead, inside of the AI mission, blew up the operator.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be clear, this allegedly happened entirely within a simulator. They did not just take an untested AI and give it access to weapons to blow things up and say, well, let's see how this goes. They were testing the AI in a simulator.
But
and the AI
it turns out
was like, I get points for blowing up SAMs.
Yeah, but it turns out they weren't doing any of this. This is all fake. Because the Air Force says this never happened and the guy made it up.
Oh, sure they do. Oh, uh-huh. Oh, they got to him, Blunty. The deep state got to him.
Yeah, so an update from the RES. Hamilton admitted he misspoke during his presentation. He said the story of Rogue AI was a thought experiment that came from outside the military and not based on any actual testing. We've never run that experiment, nor would we need to, in order to realize this is possible.
Uh-huh. Alrighty, well.
So, yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. What? No, we're not showing that. Like Jungle.
Next up, a guy with the drone has helped to catch a criminal, which is a little bit of a flip on what we normally see, which is police with drones or people with drones doing bad things that people catch. In this case, a local homeowner was able to help catch a drone or catch a thief with his drone up in the air. Was able to help track him. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. So what, this guy just had a drone and he saw the cops and was like, I'll help?
Yeah, and the cops were like, hey, can you see this dude? And he's like, yeah, he's right there. And they're like, cool.
I gotta be honest with you. Like, in this case, it feels like the teenager, broke into somebody's house, stole 30 grand. I probably feel okay about this situation, how it resolved. If I'm out flying my drone one day and two cops walk up and are like, hey, help us find somebody, I'm probably, I don't know if I would just be like, yes, sir, I'll do my civic duty. I'm not sure I would, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. You don't get, it depends on how much information they provide, right?
Well, right.
Yeah, I mean, if they come up and there's a dangerous criminal speeding at 120 miles an hour with a gun, is that change? You know what I mean? There's so many variables that I could see them going help us because X.
They're going to be like, this dude had some weed and we need to find him.
Yeah.
No.
Take it easy, bud.
No.
Y'all have a good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Oh, my drone stopped working. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, my battery has just ended. So.
I try to have as few interactions with the police as possible, positive or negative. Because you just never know when it's going to be negative.
It's barely news, so I can only say that I watched the headline and did not watch the video. Ken Herron got apparently in trouble with the cops, but didn't get arrested.
I watched the video.
Okay.
So what happened was Ken Herron's friend, and again, I apologize if I get any of the details wrong. I watched 3/4 of the video, and there was okay. Ken Herron's friend was flying in a park, and a cop came up and told him that he wasn't allowed to take off or land from the park, which, by the way, kudos to the cop, because a lot of people would have said you can't fly here. And his friend was like, actually, I can fly here because the FAA says I can, and you can't regulate the airspace. And the cop is like, yeah, no, I know. I said you can't take off or land here. It's a city ordinance or whatever. And the guy wants to argue, and Ken is being the calm middleman. Ken is like, oh, well, calm down, calm on. Trying to keep his friend from getting arrested. And the cop is like, I'm going to talk to you now because this guy's not listening to me. And I'm like, since when is Ken the reasonable, level-headed guy in the situation? Oh, it's like I'm taking crazy pills. Oh, but yeah, it's not fun when those rules get passed. But I mean, the cop was, if you believe in the law, the cop was right. You don't have to like it, but anyway, that's how I read the situation.
Speaking of believing in the law, Michigan Supreme Court is going to hear a drone case about surveillance, and this might be big for people in Michigan. Essentially, this guy had a bunch of stuff in his backyard, but nobody could see it from the road. So the police wanted to get him in trouble for it and wanted to file an ordinance, a civil ordinance about it. So they flew a drone up and then used the drone footage as evidence to get him in court for basically zoning ordinances. And he's saying that you can't do that. You didn't have a warrant.
That's a violation of his right to privacy.
Yeah, you don't have a warrant. You couldn't see it from the road. You only knew because you went up in a drone. You're above my property and looking down on my property, and that should be expectation of privacy.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Blunty. I imagine that as someone who worked in the cannabis field, you've also had some thoughts about privacy rights and illegal searches and so forth. My recollection is that if something is visible from the air, that's not considered a reasonable expectation of privacy. And so, like, I can't think if I'm right or wrong about that, or if there's any precedent. I'm sure there is, like, because cops use helicopters and planes.
Right. I'm not 100% sure, really, to be honest with you, like how that stuff works out. I'm sure it's state-based too. Yeah. But I think the argument is just that, like, essentially, I don't know. He's claiming that you would have had to have a warrant to be in a helicopter over his house, like to view that information specifically.
That feels like established case law that his lawyer would have like citations for, and
that's sort of where I'm going with speculate. This. Like, I expect that this is in court and went to the Supreme Court because there is some kind of understanding here that might be a violation of privacy.
Well, that'd be very interesting if true.
Yeah.
And we're going to resist the urge to speculate about stuff that we know nothing about when there may be actual knowledge in the present. I thought you could fly over if it was visible from the air, then it was fair game and you didn't need a warrant because yeah, don't know. It feels different if it's like a drone specifically sent to look in your backyard, but that may not be how the law stands. Better not have been a DJI drone though, because now you're not allowed to use those. Well,
yeah.